How do our wallets go from an idea to reality? Who's actually responsible for what it looks like and the technology inside? We have the man here, the man himself, Mr. Adam Budínský. That's how you pronounce your last name, right?
Yeah, Budínský.
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 It's like the long I.
Exactly,
Czech,
both of them.
Right? Yeah. The head of product hardware. How do you say it? Because this is how it looks for everyone at home. In our actual chat application in Slack, it says head of product and then in parentheses, hardware.
It should be like the opposite. Like, I think it's head of hardware product.
That's how I like to think about it too. Because I associate you with like a hardware guy in my head. That's what I always think
there's
of.
like two different, groups of hardware. One is on the product side. So how it looks like, how it feels, all of that nice things. And then the hardware, where you're dealing with the PCBs, the electronics, the more of like technical things.
Right, PCB being, you told me this, the actual chip that's on the inside. Right?
It's not the chip, it's the PCB. It's a shortcut for like printed circuit board. And it's like the small board with all the electronics, the chips on top of it. So
right,
basically everywhere. Usually it's the green board. You can see it somewhere.
Yes.
Not sure where.
The one you would typically associate with like a computer or something.
Yeah.
It was after you told me that when we met in prepping for this podcast episode, just our brief meeting on it, I like looked up I asked ChatGPT. I said, what is the difference between a PCB and a motherboard? Because like motherboard's the thing I think of, like out of a computer. And it basically said, it was a similar answer to not all squares are rectangles, or maybe the opposite, all rectangles are squares. No, square is a square. That's equilateral. Yeah. Not all rectangles
Every
are squares.
motherboard is PCB, but not every PCB is motherboard.
Yes, it was that. That's basically the exact same thing. And I was like, okay, I think I get it now. So it's a more broad term, right? For like the board that's on the inside of everything. Totally. And so you are responsible for that as well as?
Not really. I'm actually the head of hardware product. So I'm on the side of, right. Doing the nice things, the one that actually user sees. The hardware, the actual hardware is inside of our devices. So user don't see it usually.
Yes, unless you have the special views that we have. We have a cool board here at the office that shows it all split up, like all the different pieces everywhere.
That's amazing.
Yeah, working here was the first time I ever saw that. I thought it was so cool. Is there a place you can find that online? Now people are going to be curious, and they're going to hear this, and they're going to want to see it themselves.
I don't think so, actually.
Do we allow that? We're open source. There has to be information.
Yeah, I think it should be available somewhere.
We should have that online.
Totally. You can see actually the history where there's like the first Trezor PCB that's been ever made. So you can see
for the Model 1.
Yeah, for the Model 1.
Before that, like a prototype, or was it just
it was like a prototype.
Yeah. Because that's when we had that board, and then we updated it recently, I believe, with the TS5, the Trezor Safe 5. We have like a new version of that exact board. It's awesome. I love like seeing all the different pieces and what's actually going on in there. So these are the types of things that you work with, is my point.
Yes, exactly.
Just for our viewers out there.
Basically with everything that's like tangible, that's, hard, you can touch it, feel it.
Things you can see.
Yeah.
Things you can hold in your hand. That's awesome. Let's actually start with some of the basics. How long have you been here? When did you actually start with Trezor?
I think it was like 3 years ago, 3.5, something like that. And it was at the time where some first work on the TS3 was already done, like the concept phase. And we were doing like the actual, like the detail design. So you need to like basically create drawings for all the components and, search for the vendors and, create the BOM. The BOM is bill of material. It's basically all the components, list of all the components that's inside. And you need to like quote everything, and the total cost should fit in some brackets that's given from the business. So that's something that you need to like keep an eye on. So at that time I joined the company as a like mechanical design engineer. So I was actually like drawing the TS3 and TS5 and the rest.
Right.
So and then I became like head of hardware, but I was still doing for some time like head of hardware plus the mechanical design engineer. But right now we have like great like talented mechanical design engineer. So I have free hands in this like hands-on work.
Yeah. So you came in on like earlier stage lead up to the TS3, Trezor Safe 3.
Yes.
Okay.
That was actually like the first project parallel with the Keep Metal. which
Right.
is like,
ooh, there's a little teaser, a little keynote. We're definitely going to talk about that. I'm going to make sure we talk about that at some point because it's one of my favorite products.
Yeah, mine too.
And now, we finally have our hardware guy here on the podcast, so I can finally bring it up, ask questions about it. But no, that's really cool. What would you say? Just for anyone, you've kind of already said it a little bit, but like in the context of Trezor, what does hardware mean, just in simple terms, like in layman's terms, if you had to sum it up easily?
As I said, it's all the tangible things. It's from the devices to like accessories, so cables, covers, key metals. You're looking at my hands again.
I am. Yeah. This is in case I think it's been mentioned in the podcast before, but I have a tendency to look at people's hands, and it didn't ever come up in my entire life with anybody until my boss pointed it out right after our interview.
I heard that.
And I've tried, wait, were you warned? Did I warn you?
I think Anusha warned me.
Okay, it was her. So that's the exact boss that I was talking about. I try to warn people before we come on because it was something I didn't even realize. But it's like, I don't know, like seeing a squirrel or something. I've never been that guy. I've never been like I get distracted easily. Apparently I do. Like that's what I didn't realize. All it takes is the movement of a digit from someone's hand. And that's enough to take me off course a little bit.
But sorry, don't continue. It's also like the packaging, because we are doing all the packaging like from scratch. So it's not some like OEM box that we are just using and customizing to our needs, but we are like really choosing the papers, the material of the, it's called like paper tray. Mm-hmm. So we are like really drawing we are drawing the drawings and making the 3D models for that. And you need to also find vendors for all of those components, the papers and the gluing, the assembly, all of that. So yeah, it's also like a big part of what we do, and so that's I hope the answer.
Yeah. I mean, that is the thing I wanted to highlight is like it's not necessarily just the device. It's not just the main flagship things that we put out. It is also the packaging, how these things fit into their design. Because I know, or the Trezor Keep Metal, that's another thing that qualifies as being tangible, touchable. Mm-hmm. And it's like maybe the kind of thing, I know for me, like I didn't really think about it as much. Like, the people who are responsible for these physical things are also doing all of this packaging and the accessories that come along with them too. Because it is a whole package. Mm-hmm, it's like the entire experience needs to be uniform and kind of compatible with itself in order to give that kind of impact. Because you do feel it. At least I always thought like, this feels like thoughtful design, the way these things are like put together. And for anyone who's only listening, we have some of these devices here with us today. We're showing them on camera. We have a YouTube version of this podcast as well, if you're interested in actually watching any of it. But one of the big things that I wanted to ask about was like, how do you go from that point you talked about earlier where it is just an idea, where you have something in your head and you're like, I want to make this into a real thing. What is that process actually like? How do you take it from idea all the way to a finished production that's in your hands? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point, because all of that, the devices, packaging, it's just the result, of all of that work that we do. And to begin with, every product organization or product-driven company has to have a product team, which is basically like a bunch of people who is focusing entirely on the product itself. And our product team is divided to hardware, software, and design / experience. Mm-hmm. So I'm here for the hardware, and every of those projects, products, let's say, devices, has its own product manager, and we call him product owner. So he's the one responsible for everything from the idea till the mass production. So, and usually it starts with something called product discovery. So you're not creating just a nice product and putting it on the market. But you need to do this product discovery, and that means that you are really searching for pain points of the users, and you also need to find out who is the user, who are you selling it to, and and what is the business case there, and all of that.
Or who is this actually for?
Exactly, yeah. And what you are solving, which pain point are you solving with the product? So to be successful, because you can create great products, but it can end up being just a nice product that no one needs. And that's
a bad feeling.
Exactly. That's the big fail. Yeah.
How many people, I mean, it kind of depends on how you interpret this question, but like how many people are responsible for getting us to this point? You have a team that you oversee, but I know there's other teams that you interact with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much would you say it takes, or how many people would you say it takes to come together and create something like this?
Yeah, like short answer is like dozens of people, like within the company, but also like externally. Because for our devices, we have something like plus 50 suppliers. So you can imagine.
You mentioned that before.
There's always like at least few people that's caring about this. So it's like huge effort from so many people. But inside the company, you need to communicate well with, a lot of teams at the right time. So it's not always about like, working in small, bunch of people. But, you usually start with like a designer, some product managers. And then when the project's like kicks off to the development, then you start like, talking things with engineering, software, mobile app, everything needs to be cohesive in design and all of the functions. So
because there's the entire software side of it as well.
Totally.
Which I meant to bring up too. It's like it's not just packaging products, different hardware. It's like that's all got to be working in sync with software.
Yes.
And I mean, your team specifically is smaller, right? Like the actual people that you're overseeing it at a given time.
Like 3 members till 3 members of 3 people till the launch of TS5. But right now we are at 6.
That was all the way up until the Trezor Safe 5?
Yes.
I didn't know it was that recent. That was like a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah,
that was pretty...
That's really pretty tough.
Yeah. So what motivated you to double the team?
Of course, it was pretty exhausting already working on like next products. I hope I will not spoil anything. But it's getting big, and we definitely have to like scale up.
But you guys aren't actually doing like, just to help clarify who's who here, because you said there's like another team of like engineers who are like doing the building part of everything. So it's like more the design side versus the actual production, like what you request and then it's built and then brought back to you.
Yes. So I can describe the whole process basically, where usually on the start, as I said, there's the product discovery.
Yeah.
So you have basically the pain points you are solving, who is the user you are solving it for, what's probably the business case here, like, cost of the components and so the total cost, if that makes sense. You are making some preliminary like product positioning. So you are comparing yourself to the competitors, if it makes sense even for the user to compare you on the market. And from that, you have some kind of like approval from like mainly from the like C-level, like from the main stakeholders. And then you can move to like design phase, where you start with something we call like mood board. It's basically like, it's literally a board of different like designs, different things, with some sort of like design language.
And like the vibe of what you're going
exactly.
For?
And you can pick the vibe that you want to like transfer to this new product. And that's where you start to like picking up things, and you're starting to creating like design concepts with industrial designer. And your job as a like product person is to say like no to a lot of things, to a lot of good things, until it's like, fuck yes, this is the one we want to do. So that's the fun part of it, to look at different concepts, and it's kind of like dreaming about what you really want. And after that, you're creating like 3D printed concepts. So you have something like tangible.
I've seen those before. I remember some of those, like in the lead up to the TS5.
Exactly. So we have at least some idea about the ergonomics, how it feels, how it handles. And that's where we can get some like further approval about the design. So at this stage, where from your point of view as a product owner, it's done even on the like design concept side of things. You have like product discovery, you have technical specification, you have the design, you have working business case, and it got approved from the stakeholders, the C-level. you are basically done. And from that moment, it's like closed. And it's like long-term decision because the development starts and there's like, I don't know, 12 to 18 months till the launch of the product. And from that moment, it's pretty hard to make changes because it's either costly or it will prolong the time of the development.
But yeah, I was going to ask about that because with 50 suppliers, that's how much you said, right?
Like, plus 50.
We're talking like things like glass, plastic, the individual parts on the inside, everything that has to come together. These are all coming from different parts of the world. Not only does that have to be locked months ahead of time, at least a year, you said, 12 to 18 months. But then they all have to come, like if one person messes up, if one company messes up, is there an alternative? Is there anything to save you, or are you locked now? Like, what happens in that type of scenario?
Yeah. Great question. We've been in a situation where we had just one supplier for one thing, and it can
it's scary.
Yeah, it's super scary. So from that specific moment, we've running the strategy of second source. So for every like critical component, we have like two suppliers. At least two suppliers.
So there's at least one backup.
So at least there's, yes, exactly.
Because it was like, we don't want that happening ever, right?
Totally. It could be just a plastic,
Yeah.
Whatever, such a small thing.
That was the thing. I remember it was like one of the first conversations I ever heard was like, hey, we got like a delay on plastics and this could set back like our launch time. And I was like, oh my God, like it was right after I got here. I was like, I never even thought about stuff like that. Like as the consumer, you don't think about that very much. But then, when you're the person making it and it's like, well, there's this one thing. And I was like, can that just happen? That could just happen at any time. Like some supplier goes, oh, sorry, it's not coming.
You really rely on those suppliers and it's pretty hard. But, it was also our fault that we designed such a thing that requires, a lot of like quality, let's say, because it's our
fault for demanding.
It's semi-transparent plastic. There's the laser engraving on top in the mold, so it has to look really nice. There has to be a super nice and clean like split line. So we did this for like 6 months to tune just the surface treatment. Because you need to polish the mold to like optical finish, and then you will like laser engrave it and make this kind of like texture.
Yeah. I've wondered about
plus
that
the logo.
So specifically on the 3, it has that texture.
And it's actually like one piece of plastic. So people usually think that those are like 2 parts, but no, it's just one part.
Where that line is?
Yes.
I actually didn't know that.
One uniform body.
That was one of the things I wanted to ask about as well, is like, is there stuff about the design that's like either that you're proud of or you think that people don't notice, that you're like, man, I wish more people were like aware of this thing, or this thing was like a real headache for us to get right and nobody appreciates it. Is there anything like that in any of these designs?
Yeah, this is actually one of them. The surface treatment on the TS3, the back plates, which is like real aluminum, which is partially brushed, anodized.
Yeah, someone told me the machine does that, right? It's like an actual brush to get those lines.
It's a special process. It was super hard to tune it well, but we eventually did it. But also it was a pain. Another thing with TS5 is the blackening on the screen. So usually when you look at your phone, there's the black glass, and you can see the active area of the display, what's actually shining.
Yeah.
But when the displays turn off, you can see that it's kind of like grayish area.
Right, it's a slightly different color.
Yes.
Right.
And we tune it on the TS5 that it's almost like invisible to see where
it is true.
So yeah, we spend a lot of time with that. And it's such a small thing that no one will ever notice.
I didn't realize it was like such an intentional thing, or that was like so purposely done.
It was purposely.
There was, I can't remember if it was the Trezor Safe 3 or the 5, but I know that it must have been 5 because that's when I got here. But I remember someone saying there was this small thing about the plastic quality that people weren't happy with. And we'd already, I think, made a batch.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're just not going to use those. We paid thousands of dollars to make it happen, but we're not happy with the quality. We want to bring it up. So they like iterated again. And they were like, we're just not going to do it that way because it doesn't meet our standard. Mm-hmm. And I was like, is this what the hardware people are doing? I was like, that's so much... Like, to me, I would just be so stressed about that because I would be like,
totally.
I would feel like the amount of commitment that you have to everything once production is moving. How much flexibility do you have? Like so you mentioned the backup, but I mean, like, are there along the way of the process, like, is there anything you can do or any strategies that you have in order to avoid maybe a problem like that?
Not really. You need to push for the innovation like yearly, and in the best case, you do it in parallel with different vendors. So you have at least like 2 different like price quotes, and someone can do it, someone not. So you are like picking up the vendors along the way. But yeah.
And so it's either like do or die.
Yeah,
basically.
It's like it's the long-term decision and never look back.
So let's say once something ends and you've got this production of like, okay, we have 12 months until it comes out, 18 months until it comes out. What are you guys doing then? What's happening with the team during that time? When you're like, okay, we got 12 months. Is your job done? Like, now what are you doing during that space of that period?
Yeah, you're just sitting and waiting for the suppliers. No, I'm kidding. It's mainly, it's where the fun begins, because you start with the POC phase, which is like proof of concept. So you're trying to prove the feasibility of production, the parts that you drove. Mm-hmm. So that, for example, you can produce the display with the FPC cable as you want, that you can produce the plastic housing, whatever it could be, basically all the components. But after this stage, there is EVT phase, where you're like making the actual functioning samples. So at the EV phase, you are mainly like testing whether those parts can function the way you want. Mm-hmm. I almost spoiled something, but it should work as a components, but also in an assembly level. Then you have DVT phase or DV phase, design validation phase, where you are checking whether like the final touches. It's mostly about the design, about the experience, about the comms on the packaging. It's the last touches, so you are checking that. And after that, there's PV phase, production validation, where we are basically checking whether the yield rate is so low. That means how many pieces you are scrapping during the production, during like quality issues, and also scalability. How many pieces are you able to produce per day, for example, and how does it scale up on the future? So there are like few phases after the initial product discovery, and after every phase, you are like evaluating what happened, how many critical issues was there, and how would you like continue with the development.
So there might be
it's
like
kind of
minor
like exactly. It's like it's about iterations, and it's controlled process, and you are trying to mitigate risks along the way.
Right. Well, another question I had about that, with just the way these things are designed and maybe the confines that you have to work inside of. Like you said, you came in early on in the TS3 process, a little over 3 years ago, around 3 years ago. So one question that I had is this shape of our devices, the shield shape, that was determined, 10 years ago, when I think 2014 is when we came out with the Model 1. So yeah, this iconic design that we have, or I like to think of it as iconic.
It is.
Yeah, it's like that is something that we're sort of now like locked into, is the shape for every iteration. The TS3 is a bit thinner and taller. You can see the ratio. I'm sure our viewers will probably know this. The TS5 is a bit wider with the glass screen. The Model T is like slightly shorter and wider. So it's like each time this has to be slightly different, but we're still looking at that, like the square with like the cut at the bottom that kind of represents. I mean, I want to talk about that too. Like, what is the shape actually supposed to be? We can come back to that. But just in terms of how you go about designing something with this shape, is that has to be a consideration of yours, right? Where you're like, it's got to be this shape at the end with all the components on the inside. How does that play into itself?
Yeah, we've been into these discussions with the design team, and it's on one side it's like pretty good to have this iconic shape. It's super unique when you see.
It looks awesome. Yeah, I love the way it looks.
Exactly, and when you see the silhouette, just the silhouette, you immediately know what it is. If it's just
that's a good thing to have.
in
a product for
sure. Exactly. If it's just a like black brick, then it could be anything, So
what is that rectangle?
Exactly.
So,
it could be like whatever. But so that's like the biggest plus, and I think it's super simple shape. It's kind of nice. On the other hand, yes, you are limited in the internal space basically, where if it's just a brick, every internal component could be in a like rectangular shape, and it's much better to assemble those pieces together.
Yeah.
But when the shape is in a shield shape, or how did you?
Yeah. I think
then
that way.
Then it's getting pretty hard, to be honest.
Yeah, it's that cut down at the bottom that narrows where the USB plug
So
goes in.
you have problems with displays, PCBs, batteries.
So it's definitely like a thing where you guys are like, I want to do this, but there's literally no space there to do that. Because the TS5 even, I think, am I crazy? We have one here, so we can actually look at it right now. I'm pretty sure right there at the bottom where it cuts in, doesn't it also bend like this a little bit? It kind of goes like, it's not perfectly parallel.
It's drafted, but it's drafted like along the whole edge.
What's the term? Drafted?
Drafted. Is
that it?
I think it's a draft. It's a technological thing. As you need to like inject it in the mold from plastics, and you need to be able to get it from the mold.
Yes.
And there is like pretty fine texture on the sides. So to not scratch it, you need to have some angle to release it from the mold easily.
I see. So it does exist. I'm not crazy.
Yeah, it's actually there.
Case.
It's actually there.
Yeah, okay. No, I can see it actually. When you held it at that angle, it's actually much more visually. Show it to the camera.
Yeah,
this is a bonus for our visual viewers. We cut in close on that. You can see there's just a slight angle, which, I guess helps get this out of molds. And also, does that affect like how it sits in the hand as well? Is that like a consideration?
Yeah, it's more like
I know it does,
ergonomical.
But like, I was like, was that on purpose? Like in order for it to have that feel of like.
It could be.
We're going to say yes, definitely on purpose there. Yeah, like the TS3, I mean, both of them, but they look like a Spartan shield or something, just like the tall, like classical, like war shield type of thing. And now our logo is literally a padlock, like I said before.
Yeah, totally.
So when did they do the logo? Were they just like, oh, let's put a little, put a thing on top?
I'm not sure about the history of the logo, to be honest.
Because they were like, oh, that's convenient. Like the shape of our device is also kind of like a padlock. Because I love the logo too. I mean, I guess now we're getting away from your job, but this is, I think, like such a cool like design for like what represents us and everything.
Super nice. Love it.
Well, back to the hardware then. This is sort of related to what I asked about earlier. Like when I asked, is there anything that you wish people knew about? Is there anything that you wish people just understood better? Something that like a missing feature that they maybe can use, but you feel like is underutilized, or maybe just that people aren't using as much as they could be? Is there anything like that that's in any of the models that we have?
Not specifically the feature. It's more of a like of the device, but feature of the whole package that we made. So for example, like there's like few things. So if you unbox your Trezor, there is this small thing. So where you touch it, you can easily grab it from it.
This is another visual bonus for anyone watching. I'll describe it for anybody or do you want to describe it?
Oh, describe it.
So when you open it's on the TS5 as well, right?
Yeah, it's
on the 3 and the 5, the Trezor Safe 3 or the Trezor Safe 5. When you open your package for the first time, and what did you say the term was for this again?
It's paper tray.
Paper tray. Yeah, it wasn't intuitive to me. When you pull off the paper tray, the lid off of the paper tray, the device is sitting and it's flush with the packaging. It is perfectly flat. But if you take one finger or thumb and press, you push into the bottom part of the device, there's a gap underneath the packaging that allows it to rotate and easily pull out. It makes a lot of sense when you see it, but basically think of it as being on a hinge. You push on one side of the device, the bottom of the device, and it will rotate on a hinge and allow you to pull it out easily. I think maybe some people try to pull it out with their fingers or they turn it over.
But and there is the sticker that you can grab it for the finger lift.
Oh, it starts with the sticker, doesn't it?
No, it started in this way, but then we were in discussions whether we should communicate it, how to do this move.
Yeah.
But then we said like it's too difficult to explain in some super simple claim. Yeah. So let's put there the finger lift, and it's much more easier. But there's another thing, and that's that we put the perforation on the tray, so you can tear it away.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's actually like small icons that's hinting the usage of this.
I've torn off the entire thing before.
You can tear it away, and you can use it as a storage box for your Trezor.
So it's like just the box now?
Just the box, and when you know it, you can just easily grab it like that without the sticker or the finger lift. So that's like the hidden features of our packaging. And also, every of our packaging has hidden Easter egg, but I won't show it. You need to buy a new Trezor and
that's the one that I found, because I tore off the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's your hint, folks. Tear off. I didn't know you could just tear off the perforation on the side. That is actually really cool because now it has like a clean look of the box. I did the same thing, but I just tore the whole thing off. So
even from the bottom.
Do the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's how I discovered the Easter egg. If you have those at home. But yeah, that's really cool. The thing with the finger is like, once you discover that, it was like, oh, that is so cool. It's the only way I take it out now. I will only do the push with the finger. How do you actually know that? Just another question about the design process. It's like when you're doing this, you're starting on a new model or something. It's like, how do you know that these things and the changes that you're making or improvements, so to speak, how do you know those are going to be received well? That the audience, the intended audience, is going to like them, and that you're not going to end up with like a dud at the end of the day?
Well, you never know. No, I'm kidding. It's more of a...
Well, you don't.
Yeah,
you don't ever know, right?
I shouldn't say that. Of course, you have to be like, bold and decisive in what you are doing. And I think the best thing on this is that we are making products also for ourselves, not for just someone, and because you can make like good products for everyone, but you are making like the greatest products for yourselves or for the products that you really want to use. And I think that all people in Trezors are like heavy Trezor users. So we are like, at least in the product team, so we are like heavily like pushing the features that we really want in our Trezors.
Yeah.
So I guess that if you like solve those pains that you have or the needs you have, and you solve it in a way that you really like it, you can solve those issues even for like the rest of the Trezor users, and which is basically majority of users. So yeah, I guess that's the approach. But also you have like backup from like research, and you have insights from like within the company, and of course we are like driven by that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a similar. It's something I've actually thought about as well, because we have similar things with like making videos in the marketing department, because a lot of that's like around education. That's kind of where this question came from, because I know that for me, when I started working here, I thought like, it's not a perfect parallel, but I thought, oh, I want to do all these fun topics in crypto, like all these things about Trezor wallets and hardware wallets that I think are super interesting. But the thing is, there's like more and more new people coming in all the time. So at least when it comes to videos and education, a lot of times, like 80% of what is needed is just like the basics. Like, do you know what our most popular video is on YouTube? Do you have any idea?
Idea.
The biggest one on YouTube.
The one you are naked in? Or?
It is not that one. Well, I can't get into that one right now. Go on a treasure hunt if you guys want to know what that video is. It's out there. It's public. It's not like an internal video or anything. The biggest video we have on YouTube is the how to set up your Trezor Safe 3. That's it. It's just like the most straightforward how to do this thing, because that is the device. It's the least expensive of the Safe series. And it's one of the most sold for that reason. I think the price point is still like $79, $89 or something like that.
79, I think.
And it doesn't have the touchscreen, but some people prefer that, actually. They like having the tactile feedback. I like the touchscreen myself because I just like the speed of everything. But it's like that both the price point and some of the other features have made it our most sold product. So naturally, the video is the most popular video. And that can, like, for at least in terms of video, that can inform what you do. But for hardware, it's like maybe that is a little bit different, because it's like everything is a matter of convenience and like how you're actually using everything. So yeah, I didn't know if that answer would be different for you in your department and what you do. I know that's been my experience, but with this, it's kind of like, how do we make this better? How do we make this one thing better with this new iteration? So I guess it would cause like a different mentality. Or I was just curious about like what your mentality was, basically.
You mean with those ones, with the actual TS3 and TS5s?
Yeah, and just like future iterations. When you're thinking about where are we going to go in the future, it's like, how do you think of these things and know, oh, this is actually what my audience wants? And, sometimes that might coincide with what you want too. But you did mention research, which I guess makes sense as well.
Yeah. Like for the future, we are looking like definitely on something that's like wireless. So we would like to get rid of the cables, so we want to push the convenience further. So mainly that and the security.
Just always increasing security. Yeah.
I don't want to spoil much more things. So
yeah, that's fine. We can keep it under wraps for now. We did have our security episode was our last one with Sushi. If anyone hasn't seen that, Tomasz Sushanka he's our security guy on the software side here. So yeah, we have back-to-back software and hardware with the two of you. So that's good. One last question that I have for you is, if someone, I know you said you only have a team of 5 people, but if someone was wanting to get into this type of work, let's say like hardware in general or working with this type of technology, what road would you suggest or recommend people take in order to work on things like this? Or actually, I always felt this is like out of reach. Like I have too much of a dummy brain to figure out engineering. But if I wanted to go that way, what's something that you would tell people and how to do that?
Yeah, just basically don't worry about hardware. Hardware is fun. It's also hard, but you need to like get into it definitely. But play it with the 3D printer, with stuff. Disassemble different products and look into it, how it's made, and yeah, that's the simplest way how you can get into it.
So playing around with these, like tinkering with things, building things, that might be what
just
it is.
Don't be scared of it.
I was never like the builder kid growing up. That might be what it is. You know how some people are like obsessed with Legos and they love just like putting things together. Yeah, I was not that kid because I'm like bad at it. I don't know what it is. I feel like there are things I'm good at and I'm skilled at, but like building physical objects, I'm not like the handyman. Like I've always just been so bad at doing those kind of things. If we ever have like an apocalypse, like I'm one of the first to go because I won't be able to survive I won't be able to I see people on like, on like shows where they like start a fire with like a piece of like some dust and a piece of tinfoil. And I'm like, what's happening there? I don't even understand what it is. So yeah, if that happens, I'm just going to come running to you just so you know.
Awesome.
In order to help keep me alive.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on for the podcast. I'm happy to both have some of those questions answered for myself and for our audience. We always end the episode with what I call the awkward handshake. You just have to reach around this whole thing because we're super far away. Yeah, there you go. You got it. Well, I think we spaced the couches further away than we normally do. Yeah. So that was, I had to really extend it to make sure that happened. We've never had a failed handshake, just awkward so far.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys around.